question is, what would the black community look like if it was free to self-actualize, free from racism, white supremacy?
Is it looks like mine. It's like harmony. It looks like quality. It looks like peace. It looks like everything that we are striving for in this world.
I mean, I think the first thing that we have to establish when we're talking about independence is discussing what is independence. What is independence for everyone? Then specifically, what is independence for us? Independence is when you have your own sovereignty.
I mean, I think the key thing for me is wrapping our minds around what we mean by independence. And I think that there's a difference between freedom and independence, although the two are in the same family, so to speak.
Living in a community where you're free.
For us, by us wouldn't just be a slogan or a catchphrase. It would be the actual way that we lived. It would be normal.
We would have gotten rid of the rugged individualism that plagues a lot of us and keeps us kind of, acting as like animals, sometimes kind of with a dog-eat-dog mentality.
Where you're free to move independently, where you're free to move without obstruction, where you're free to move without being oppressed or in an oppressed situation. I think we would understand more so how creative we could be, how much more protective we would be in our environment, how much more responsive we would be to one another, how proactively we could think if we weren't under the thumb of white supremacy and the oppressive state and systems that it causes and creates amongst us.
All right. So the question is, what is black independence, and what is a black independent community? Right. I believe that that's not just a cut and dry answer. That's not something you could just say, well, the black independence is this. I think if you try to just define it without putting thought into it, we're going to keep getting the same results that we're getting, just a lot of filibustering and talking and debating and arguing and intellectual masturbating, because we haven't really put real thought into what black independence is. Because one of the reasons why I chose this clip is I like the fact that questions were being asked to define what independence is. What's the difference between independence? What's the difference between freedom? What's the difference between independence, freedom, and liberation? How do these things pertain to us in Black America in 2023? Is living in a independent black community, is that something that's even still attainable for Black Americans today? And so I think that's a good question that we could put on the floor and kind of deal. We could bring up our definitions and all that stuff there. You can see my internet acting like Metro PCS, but it's all good. We're still here. But I just put that out and started with you, Pat, so we can rock it with you. But black, and when you think black independence, what's the first thing come to your mind?
You sure you don't want to start with PC? I mean, I can give an answer, but it's his documentary.
I want to start with you because you talked first.
I did talk first.
You did talk with your suit on.
I did talk first. I had pajama pants on under that. Anyways. I think to me, when I think about black independence, I think a community that is self-sustaining. But then for me, it goes deeper than that, because I think, we could all give 2 or 3 sentences and then be done with it. But how do we go deeper than that? Like what was mentioned in the documentary, because the documentary did go pretty deep with regards to independent black community. A self-sustaining community that has a business infrastructure and an educational infrastructure that communicate with each other and that intertwine with each other to produce the things that the community needs from inside of the community. So, it's not just a community that owns its own businesses and owns its own uh buildings and things of that nature. It's a community that owns, yes, it owns its own businesses, it owns its own educational systems, it owns its own homes and buildings, but it also owns the methods of procurement for those things that are used to build those other things. It also owns and produces its own intellectual capital that is used to progress and develop those things and new ideas. It owns the resources and it manages its economy very, very well, or to an extent where if need be, it could be cut off and still sustain itself. And all of those are still, it's a little bit deeper, but it's still a high level type conversation to go digging into that would mean, like, not only defining these terms, but articulating how these things would come about, the processes that need to be put in place to bring these things about, and the ideas that would need to be in the minds of the people that exist in those spaces to protect them. Because at some point you are going to reach out and touch or communicate or deal with people from other communities. But how do you do that and still maintain your own independence while also giving the other community something that's beneficial to them, that allows you to create a sustainable relationship? So it gets to be real interesting. But I think
Right.
about all those things, and in the interest of keeping it short
Right.
ish, I'm gonna stop.
But one of the main characteristics, though, you were going to say is to be self-sustaining, to be an independent community.
Absolutely, self-sustaining is a requirement.
Gotcha. All right. UPC, what's your definition of an independent community, or independent, or Black independence, period?
It goes a lot along the lines of what Patrick was talking about in regards to just understanding that the nation building aspect of it. Nations, they have borders, they have boundaries. Sometimes the boundaries aren't physical boundaries, but they're ethical boundaries. And the self-sustaining part of it, being a group of people that are self-sustained, self-contained. We when we look at different places around the world, we see nations, and nations are able to protect their borders. Nations are able to insulate themselves. And that, I think, is what independence looks like for us. It looks like of us functioning through our own volition, through our own momentum, but being able to establish ourselves in terms of our independence from other entities. Not to say other entities that never have influence, that's just the global climate of the
Right.
world. But to be able to point to something, culturally speaking, nation building speaking, however you say it, and say that this specifically belongs to this particular community without any sort of inference from other people, other groups of people. So when I look
Right.
at independence from that perspective, I look at it from a simplicity point of view, and say I can say that basically you create the boundaries from which your people operate and function within, and they can't be corrupted by outside influences. You know what I'm saying? And you control your infrastructure.
Right. So when I think about it, because I think we all agree that self-sustainability is one of the key components of Black independence. If you're going to consider yourself independent in any way, and I don't care what race, color, whatever, self-sustainability. And so I know a lot of times I see in the comments, sometimes people, they say that they believe that us being able to be self-sustaining is impossible, being that we are in America. I don't believe it's impossible, because it has, self-sustaining Black communities have happened before in America. We talk about them all the time. Maroon communities, Palenques, Quilombos, all these things. They they were self-sustaining Black communities. Over time, of course, no, they were bombarded by the Europeans, but you had some that were able to sustain themselves for like 30, 40, 50 years, independent of anything else. And I think when we talk about Black independence, we need to take a realistic view and a realistic look at what is independence, what it takes to be independent, and what it takes to remain independent.